Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Indian space startup Skyroot's Infinity Campus in Hyderabad via video conferencing on Thursday. Prime Minister Modi also unveiled Skyroot's first orbital rocket, Vikram-1, with the capability to launch satellites into orbit. The state-of-the-art facility will have around 200,000 square feet of workspace for designing, developing, integrating and testing multiple launch vehicles with a capacity to build one orbital rocket every month. Addressing the event, Prime Minister Modi said that the government opened the space sector to private innovation, introduced a new space policy, connected startups with the industry.
3, 2, 1, 0.
A major boost for India's private space ambitions. Hyderabad-based Skyroot Aerospace today opened its Infinity Campus, a facility dedicated to building and testing multiple launch vehicles under one roof. Inaugurated virtually by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the campus spans almost 2 lakh square feet and aims to manufacture one orbital rocket every month. At the heart of today's event was the unveiling of Vikram-1, Skyroot's first orbital class rocket capable of placing satellites into low Earth orbit. The company says the new facility will significantly speed up production timelines for the Vikram series. Skyroot, founded by former ISRO scientists Pawan Chandana and Bharat Dhaka, has been at the forefront of India's private space growth. In 2022, it became the first Indian private company to launch a rocket, Vikram-S, into space. Addressing the event, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the rise of private space companies reflect the success of recent reforms in the sector.
सरकार ने स्पेस सेक्टर को प्राइवेट इनोवेशन के लिए ओपन किया। नई स्पेस पॉलिसी तैयार की गई। हमने स्टार्टअप्स को, इंडस्ट्री को इनोवेशन के साथ जोड़ने का प्रयास किया। हमने इन स्पेस की स्थापना की, अपने स्टार्टअप्स के लिए इसरो की फैसिलिटीज और टेक्नोलॉजी को उपलब्ध कराया। यानी भारत ने बीते 6-7 वर्षों में ही अपने स्पेस सेक्टर को एक ओपन, कोऑपरेटिव और इनोवेशन ड्रिवन इकोसिस्टम में बदल दिया है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also praised the contributions of India's Gen Z in taking the nation to new heights.
फिनटेक हो, एग्रीटेक हो, हेल्थ टेक हो, क्लाइमेट टेक हो, एजुटेक हो, डिफेंस टेक हो, हर क्षेत्र में भारत के युवा, हमारे जैन जी नए समाधान दे रहे हैं।
With the Infinity Campus now operational, Skyroot will accelerate work on commercial satellite launches using the Vikram series. The company says the new integrated facility housing manufacturing, assembly and testing will boost efficiency and reduce turnaround time. India's private space industry has expanded rapidly in recent years, driven by reforms that open the sector for collaboration and investment. Skyroot's progress is seen as a key step towards building an Atmanirbhar competitive launch ecosystem.
And we are joined by Ajay Lele, renowned space expert from the IDSA. Welcome, Dr. Lele. Prime Minister Narendra Modi noted in his speech inaugurating Skyroot's Infinity Campus that while ISRO had powered India's space journey for decades, now India's private sector is forging ahead in this space, so to speak. Tell us in what ways the entry and the successes of the private sector means for India's space program.
I think India's space program has come a long way. We became space-faring nation way back in 1980 when we started launching our own satellites by using our own launch vehicle. Now today we have reached to a position when the launch vehicle will be owned not by the government of India's agencies like ISRO, but by a private agency like Skyroot. And I think that's a very quantum jump, one can say. we have achieved a lot amount of a success over a period of time as far as our space trajectory is concerned. Last couple of years, Skyroot and other agencies are working very hard to ensure that the private sector actually sustains and then expands further. Today, what we can see as far as the entire facility of a Skyroot is a very amazing thing to happen within a span of say 3 to 4 years. That a smaller company which was started by two individuals has now become a company employing almost 1,000 people. They have undertaken a suborbital launch in 2022, and they are now proposing a full orbital launch early next year. So I think this is a very major progress which has happened as far as India's entire space ecosystem is concerned. Particularly during last few years, we have got a lot of startups which have started entering into the space arena because of the favorable facilities. The structures are there now. You have got a space policy also which actually identifies who is supposed to do what. So there is a lot amount of a clarity, lot amount of a young talent is coming into being, and good investment is also coming into being. So I think Skyroot is a main example of how a space ecosystem can evolve in a shortest possible time to such a great heights.
Okay, the entry of the private sector into the space domain has been greatly facilitated by government reforms. Could you highlight some of these key reforms undertaken by the government in this sector in recent years?
You see, India, I can say that was at the right time in the history when privatization started happening globally. Elon Musk's company SpaceX started making internet available through the passage of satellites for last couple of years only. And that has actually boosted the global sector as far as space is concerned. Otherwise, couple of years back, very few satellites were launched. But now the number of satellites which are getting launched has increased substantially. So that is a good thing. So India was there, available over there, with ISRO doing its own work. They have identified few areas of expertise, and they have, I can say that they have traveled that path in a very systematic fashion. So we had the basic ecosystem which was ready for the privatization to start. And subsequently, the private sector has even, India has allowed 100% FDI also in a selective basis in the private sector. So a lot of reforms which have happened in space agency, which will actually boost the privatization, came into being around 4 years back, and which is actually spearheading the entire space economy, one can say, and a space ecosystem as far as privatization is concerned. Around 400 startups are operating basically in the domain of a space. There could be around 4,000 people who are actually the high-tech trained people who are getting employed into these startups. And more importantly, around 4,000 crores of investment is happening. I think more importance should be given to the investments of the minds of the scientific community and of the money also. So all these three things have come together, and that's why we can see a major boost which is happening in the private sector.
Okay, if you could tell us a little bit more about this private space sector revolution. Tell us something about the Gen Z's journey in the space sector, the number of startups, and how have small teams also succeeded in, boosting the private space revolution in the country?
You see, what happened was that if you see ISRO space program, even today, even if ISRO launches a rocket, almost 80% of the job associated with launch of that rocket and putting satellites into orbit is done by a private sector. So there are a lot of smaller companies which are doing a lot of amount of activities which are directly or indirectly related with ISRO's launch system as well as manufacturing of a satellite. There have been areas, particularly the areas like satellite manufacturing, creating structures for satellites, creating structures for rockets, where HAL also is playing a very important role. So I can say that it is a journey of a public-private system which is making a journey pretty faster. As far as startups are concerned, as it was mentioned by Prime Minister, Gen Z is taking a very important role over here. You have got people at the age of 23, 25 who are CEOs of small startups, and they're really doing good work. They're doing a focused work. This is essentially because now you've got a system in place where you've got a clarity of what is to be done. One window sort of a clearance is there for various types of activities. So there is very less red tapeism over here. Globally also, as I was making a mention, the space sector is booming. So definitely there is a certain amount of, one can say, money which is coming from a global players also into India's private sector. More importantly, if you see, ISRO has made a mark globally as far as a space agency is concerned. Somewhere down the line, one can say that actually ISRO has created a confidence in the rest of the world that India can be taken seriously. And that's the one of the main reasons why India's private actors are also taken seriously. Because some of the private players who are operating in this world have already worked in ISRO, so they have got good amount of experience also. So I can say that it is a combination of various things which is actually giving you the fruit at this point in time.
Indeed. Lastly, a word on India's high quality manufacturing ecosystem that has contributed to India's space program.
You see, there are two to three things over here. As far as private sector is concerned, private sector can make investments, private sector can do research and development, they can do innovation. But at end of the day, the testing systems are very difficult systems. They're difficult to manufacture, number one, and huge amount of investments are required. So the government policy has allowed the private sector to use ISRO's testing facilities. That's why high quality manufacturing is possible, because even if you manufacture something, you require adequate testing facilities for that. So ISRO's testing facilities are also available, and that is one of the major reasons because of the partnership of ISRO, the handholding which ISRO is doing with the private sector is booming, and they are innovating new technologies. Particularly if you can see this Skyroot rocket also will have carbon fibers, will have 3D printing. So all new technologies are put into place to develop new sorts of rocket systems.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Lele, for being with us and shedding light on India's private sector space revolution as well.
You.
Thank you.